Hello, listeners. Do you have an idea for someone who should definitely be on this podcast? Always looking for awesome stories in the community. We love to hear from listeners. That's how we get a lot of the people we feature on this podcast. Email us at themoreyouKnow@gmail.com or just private message us on Facebook or Instagram at themoreyouKnow. We can't wait to hear from you about the hidden gems of Northern Colorado. Welcome to the More You NoCo, bringing curiosity and community connection to Northern Colorado, one conversation at a time. I am your host, Ivan Wayne. Glad to have you here. Today we hear from Nate and Heidi Webb, founders and co-owners of Blazen Illuminations. Much like our episode with Distortions Unlimited, you'll have to roll over to our Facebook or Instagram page to get the full experience of what Heidi, Nate, and their team are able to pull off. We'll get into the details of what Blazen Illuminations is, but I enjoyed how they labeled their purpose as Imagineering. Today's guests try to create an unforgettable experience that'll spark your wonder and imagination. So here they are, Nate and Heidi Webb. I sit here with Nate Webb.
Hello, yeah.
And Heidi Webb.
Hi there.
So we were chatting about Blazen before we started the recording, and Nate was about to jump into a little back history about Blazen Illuminations, so I'm just going to let you turn you loose.
Okay, yeah. I mean, back history, really, Blazen Illuminations now is a creative services company. So we do all kinds of things that are creative and serviceable. I think when you look at Blazen now, I would call it more like an Imagineering type of company. Disney Imagineering, where we've just got trades of people that do lots of cool things. Yeah. And so it's never the same thing. I mean, give it any day of the year, and we're doing something completely different and unique. It's all similar in the sense of it's all entertainment-based, event-based work. We're always doing something different. I mean, we're building transit cases now. We're working on props and other kinds of things now.
Well, if I can interject. Yeah. So the creative services, the reason we came up with that was over the years we have taken our backgrounds of the entertainment industry and really tried to pour that into our community and the world around us and try to be, not limited to just one thing. Oh, I'm going to just sell, LEDs, or I'm just going to do audio, or I'm just going to... That's very limiting, and we're both very artistic, and the people that we associate with tend to have very artistic perspectives and creative perspectives. And we found that there's this niche that our customers are growing into where they're looking for their dreams to be realized or their visions for their marketing plans to be realized. And actually, Blazen Illuminations means to market with light and the technology. So we take their dreams or their marketing plans that are, kind of out there, and we sit down with them and we walk them through, how can we take your vision and then break it into a reality that comes from, if you're doing an event, the grandeur of what the event looks like, what the marketing would look like, what it would sound like and look like as an event, as a person coming to the event. And also, what is the backside of it? All the invisible stuff that happens, the trash, security, all those different aspects, all the way down to, like he's saying, road cases. If we're doing an event for a client that's a holiday event and they have a 40-foot tall Christmas tree, and we need to be able to help them at the end of the event properly care for that tree because it's a focal point for it to be done again the following year, then we'll build road cases to hold those things, and they're large.
Yeah.
So that's how the creative services really is easily explained, because it allows for our creativity and our limitless desires to have an impact in the world and bring color and vibrancy and audio experiences to life by bringing other people's lives to life and experiences. So
yeah, I mean, and that's really the creative side of it. So I mean, the back history, really, Heidi and I both met back in 95. Maybe a little bit earlier if she remembers. But I remember meeting her a little bit earlier. But I was promoting concerts and doing different events in the Greeley area, downtown Greeley, actually, which is really fun. Yeah. And then Heidi was out touring and doing production work out nationally with her dad's company at the time. And then in 95, we got together, a couple of projects we did together. And then we jumped on the road and toured together. They were looking for a lighting director, and I was doing some of that kind of work. Within about a year, we got married and did touring on the road with what was really funny is running into a lot of the bands that I produced as a local promoter, and then meeting those guys out in the national market. It was pretty fun to meet with those guys. So it was a lot of cool relationships I made early that were then continued on in the bigger national scene.
For you, people can hear concert promoter and then they hear you running lights. I think the thing that needs to be understood is you've always done everything.
Right, yeah.
So audio, video, lighting, all of the interconnections, the design, the staging, all of that. And as a concert promoter, you needed that so that you knew who you were hiring, how it was going to look and fit your design and needs. For me, I was raised in the entertainment industry. My dad was the entertainment director for Elitch Gardens for 3 years, and then we went to Phoenix for a while, and he did some musical stuff down there, and then we toured for 10 years with a Christian music ministry that he produced and wrote music for. And so I was raised in this environment of technology and bringing the sheet music to life, or bringing a vision to life, or choreography or whatever, through technology or, sign language or puppeteering or all that kind of stuff. Totally 80s kind of thing, isn't it? But it's true. Those two things kind of merged into what we have now. But we used to tour almost 300 days a year. And part of what was our major breaking point was we'd started Blazen. We had done some large projects with Distortions in Greeley. They kind of helped us get us on our feet with a large production for Six Flags. And we did the laser, we did the laser installations and controls for 13 of their Brutal Planets across the country at 13 of the Six Flags that back at the time we had dial-up internet, so we had to dial in to every one of those laser systems and run them for them from our apartment when we were first married. We're also touring in the background and doing other work to keep going, because when you start a business, it's very rare to be able to just have the funding to be alive.
Right.
We had our kids and we weren't seeing them, but maybe an hour a day. That's not very much. So granted that my mom was helping out, and that was huge because they at least had family around them, but it wasn't us.
Yeah, so at that point we said, I think it's time to get off the road. Let's start really focusing on some other things. We jumped off the road, started focusing on raising our kids, got some local jobs in a church, and did some other local event work and things like that around the area.
While building
Just
Blazen.
Stayed home. Yeah, That was a good time just to focus on the kids' growth in those first few years, because that was kind of setting them up for who they've become now. And we were seeing those great results. But I would never change that ever. And at the time we thought, man, one of these days we might get back on the road and do some stuff again. And the further I get away from that, no way am I going back on the road. I'll go back on the road, but not touring as the roadie guy, man. I'm not
That's
doing that.
That's a young person's job in the industry. But I think that the cool part is every step that we've taken forward has allowed us to open the next crevice, the crack, the window, the door of enlarging our creativity, but also bringing other people's creativity to life. And that's the part that makes this job fulfilling. I was explaining to Nate over the weekend that had he interviewed me for real 5-10 years ago on certain things that we've gotten ourselves into,
as an employee
interviewed me as an employee, I would have not been hired because I didn't know enough. But because we were doing this together, we learned it together, and we've had a lot of growth together.
Yeah.
So it's good. It's been an interesting journey.
We've blazed new trails.
Oh, Lord.
But
How often do you use that?
No, it's when we're just being cheesy, talking. Yeah. But, that's the thing I think, too, is that we look back at what has kind of led to this point. At 2006, we all just sat back and we were talking about how we wanted to make the world better. As a business owner, as people just in the world, how do you make the world better? How do you improve on things that, God made it pretty amazing already, but how do the human interactions interact with the world? And we'd seen so many things in our years of touring and doing various events that we really thought some of that same kind of techniques and styles and ways to view the world through theatrical mindsets to just improve our environments. And we just started thinking a bunch of different ways. And an opportunity came along that was to do, of all things, Christmas lights on a property. The property is called Centera here in Loveland. And
actually,
it was a big development.
It wasn't just Christmas lights.
Right. There was a ton of other things. Yeah. But getting in the door with this, hey, we're thinking about doing some new Christmas lights, and we'd love to have you guys give us some ideas. Okay, so we didn't just come to the idea table with, Christmas lights and let's go with these colors. It was this gigantic, huge process of we should create this whole property to be like Disneyland and parks and have all these different things and events and strategies. And it was a huge project. At the time, that company was like, yeah, let's do it. So they jumped in. Yep. their budget, I think they like tripled or almost quadrupled their budget the first year to make things happen, to take over and really make a big impact.
Right.
Then after that, a lot of the ideas were handed off to different people and different partners, and some of it came to realization, others didn't. But that really was what got us into what I would call our retirement day. You know, where I like, we got to retire because
other jobs. We just work this one.
Yeah, we just got to retire and do what we wanted to do. And I think that's like, I hear like these 60-year-old guys that are like, man, one of these days I'm going to retire and do what I wanted to do. And I'm like, dude, I did that at 35.
Yeah.
It was
that
awesome.
does not mean it's been easy at all.
No.
And I will say the cool part that happened with us is my grandfather, he has a very large history in writing contracts and stuff. He actually worked for Ball Aerospace, and he won the contract for them making the penny.
The soda cans and
soda
stuff?
cans, but what else? It was the
some Hubble
telescope stuff and things like that. So he's an incredible resource, and he actually sat Nate down and pulled out some of his examples that he was allowed to keep for his proposals and walked him through having a bigger vision than focusing on the one element. And that really helped us feel free to bring our creativity to life, because instead of like someone coming to you, like he was saying, oh, we just want to do Christmas lights. No, what is the story you're telling? What is it that you're instigating? Why is it that you're choosing the colors you are? Why is it that, what's the sound that goes with it? What's the, why would people come here? What's the why? And he really gave us the key to success in communicating in those ways. And it's an old-fashioned way to do it, but it is so true to today. It's wonderful. We still use it today. And that's pretty cool. So the colors that we chose for that project in the master plan talked about drawing people into this retail environment from the interstate, from the highways, from the outskirts. How do you get people to come in? Well, we'd had warm winters, and so we wanted it to feel cold, where they were excited to come in and classy and very crystalline, but it felt cold where they'd go in and buy a coffee or spend more time in the store, linger longer times would increase. It's psychology.
Right.
And
psychology.
And there's a lot of psychology actually that goes behind the artistry of what we do. So you're choosing sound for a reason. You're choosing the color tones for a reason. You're choosing, the environment that you're in. You're choosing every little piece and angle, attack, where people enter and how they exit and all of that, because it drives comfort, it drives familiarity, it drives tradition, it drives, remembrances and excitement, and sometimes cold feelings that you want to stay and eat something, or sometimes warm feelings like you want to draw them outside, all these different things. Fire and Ice Festival that we produced last 4 years was the absolute opposite. And so we had fire and ice, and so we were drawing people outside and giving them the feeling that it was warmer than it really was. And that original project that we had years ago was to draw people inside from the outside, making it feel colder than it really was.
So multifaceted. Depends on what the goal is and what the event is.
Yeah. So sometimes we maintain just buildings for the government that has to do with their tourism branch. So, Union Station or Denver City County building, we like those, and we take care of those all year. Some of the
creating attractions up at different small mountain towns, Winter Park, Colorado, we've got a couple of projects going on. We've done a lot of the lighting in Winter Park. So a lot of those places, when we come in, we think about the bigger picture. What are tourists going to these destinations for? Why are they coming there? What are they doing there? What are the kinds of experiences that the city or that maybe even that guest expects to have when they go to that environment? And a lot of times I think clients that we work with, they've been so long in that position or in that city or whatever they're doing that they forget some of those. Sometimes you get so close to the thing that you're doing that you forget how other people view it. Right. And so that's what we help to remind them, is saying, this might sound cheesy to you and you might have already done this, quote unquote, but like doing this again, this is what people are expecting when they come here. These are the things that they want to see when they travel from regional areas of Colorado or from clear across the world. And that's what we see in all of our projects that we do. We really try to put a finger and a pulse on who's attending. And whether it's a small Christmas project in downtown Denver or the ice rink at the Promenade Shops that we work on, we tend to check like who and where are people coming from. Mm-hmm. And we're finding them come from all over the country and around the world. Colorado in this area, as much as it's just this area, we always think about it being, Colorado. We're being affected and being this is a destination for the world to come to and be a part of that. And people have expectations of what Colorado is from someplace in Europe or Japan or China. They're going to come here and they see these big things about what Colorado is. That's what they want to see. Mm-hmm. And that might seem cheesy to us, but it's what we need to actually then give them.
Right.
So
has your all's work left the state? Have you done national jobs and things? Because I was perusing your website, most of it seemed Denver, Loveland area, Colorado, but I was curious about that.
Just because a lot of the stuff on the website's not fully updated. I mean, you could probably find a little bit more of what we're doing on our Facebook page.
Okay.
So that's a definite good place to go check out, because there's a lot of really interesting... Yeah, you would find a lot of the photos, the stories, some of our case stories and various things like that are on that.
Which I'll shout out because a couple of nights ago I was on your Facebook page and I scrolled for a very long time and I didn't even get past last year. Right. So you all have a lot of neat content.
Cool.
Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah. And we're trying to boost that up even more this year with all the projects we're doing. But things have left the state. I mean, we've been invited to go and participate in various events, whether we're just doing technical support. Our crew will fly in and produce that event with them, running lights, sound, video at the conference or whatever. Or we've gone and been a part of providing technology services for, just recently was the MGM Grand's New Year's Eve event in Vegas.
Called Chrome.
It was called Chrome. What we did for that was we were asked very late in the game to provide a media technology service, basically a media server that plays back all this video. And we had to play back this gigantic video content that other systems that are out there in the world just couldn't do. So it was playing back in these big video walls. It was playing into a video dance floor. It was mapping things around the room and different playback presentations everywhere. I think at one point they said that there was somewhere in the neighborhood of, almost 2 terabytes of video being played back at the same time. And we had to sync different machines together. One was a primary, one was a backup. So it was a very high-end, high-techy thing. And our company was able to go in and help put that together, provide the technology to do it, train the operator, and then have her do that show. And it had 0 problems. I mean, there's a lot of praying over that it didn't have problems, but it didn't have problems. And I think that's really due to the fact of the experience that we've had over the years, the knowledge and skill sets that we've been building and training into our people, and learning ourselves to be able to produce a show of that scale. That was the second largest New Year's Eve celebration in Vegas. So that's pretty big.
And that was you all.
Yeah.
Long way from dial-up.
Yeah. Very funny, huh? Yeah. Well, and it's interesting, you take the creative services ideas and you kind of go, well, why would you have a media server? Well, the purpose is we do a lot of video mapping and projection. It meets marketing goals. It meets visionary needs, things like that. We do the video mapping inside Union Station for New Year's, things like that. But those are all things meeting a marketing promotion kind of need for that venue. The Denver City and County building for Christmas this year, instead of it just being a light control of its program and music, which is all in-house that we do here, we swapped it over with our technician, Truitt, who's in-house. He's amazing. And he actually worked with us on the music that was happening for this year. We programmed in-house. That's all actually video mapping on that building this year. So instead of each light individually being told to turn on and off so that it can hit a certain cue for the song, we're actually playing video sequences through the system to make the building's lights move and do different choreography than it could ever do as an individually that's programmed. There's over 600 light fixtures on that building that have red, green, and blue capacities in it. And this just made the whole building come to life even more so.
That is fascinating.
Yeah.
Because I've seen shows or similar things like that, and I've always wondered. And so you're able to map the individual lights onto, I guess, what you'd say, quote unquote, a screen.
Yep.
Right.
And then you're able to move across images and designs, and that is super cool.
That's right.
Yeah, it was a giant 4K image for any intents and purposes. So 4K television, basically, we just mapped over the front of that building. And so that building is, 280 feet wide, 5 stories high, something like that. So here's a 4K video that we basically played, and then the lights play back that content.
Yeah.
So
that doesn't mean you're going to see in that mountains and flags and all that,
right.
But it's getting the intricacies and the unique changes and colors that you'd only get through video that you just can't get programming it individually.
You couldn't synchronize that, individually.
But many hours. We actually, when we won that contract originally to take care of in that building, Nate and I would sit overnight in the cold for days programming to music to make sure it was right, because you needed to be in person to see it. Now we have everything digitally in-house, and we have it on the computer screens, and we can just see where the lights are and tell it where to go and what to do. And all of our projects are like that. We take care of the Logan County Courthouse and the Racine County building, and there's a project up at Cooper Creek in Winter Park we take care of, and Union Station. So those are our local ones.
Yeah, I was going to ask if you all get excited, or if there are realms of events that you haven't got to touch yet. You have these goals. You've touched on technology a couple times, and now I start to think, like, not only is there a plethora of different types of events and experiences that you can bring to life, but also in the time you've had this company, technology has allowed you all to do different things. And it's like, this is happening at the same time. And have you all been able to experiment with different ideas because of technology that didn't exist 5-10 years ago? Has that like shaped you all as a company?
How about 20 years ago? You'd have a semi-truck pull in the dock from being on a show, roll off your carts and carts and carts of par can lights, and all of the bulbs were busted because they hit a pothole on the way there. And now we're dealing with the LED spectrum, so now we don't need as many lights on a stage. They don't break, which is like...
And they're smaller, right?
Yeah. Amazing.
Smaller, brighter, more powerful.
Yeah.
Use less power. Yeah, I mean, all of those things are really amazing. So that part of technology we've definitely seen. But I think it's really actually kind of funny, because we were just talking about Heidi's grandpa. So he turned 94 this year.
Yeah, last December.
Hopefully we have him for a little bit longer. He was talking about the technology that he's seen over the years. I mean, imagine a gentleman who's been here for 94 years, the kind of technology changes that he's seen. Yeah. And we talked about that just even in the last 20 years, how that change has been accelerated. And we see that in the business, the acceleration of the technology. Things that, 98, 99, we're using dial-up internet. There's kids now that don't even know what the heck that is. They never heard it.
What does that mean?
Tone. Yeah, exactly. So the fact that you had to use a phone line to get connected to the other side, and it wasn't through the internet necessarily, it could be direct connected. So all of those things are crazy, seeing that technology. But now being able to program light shows and synchronize it to music through video programming, that to me is probably the biggest change in the last 4 or 5 years.
Well, and I would say, like, for instance, the media server that we took to Vegas, and also we used the same kind at Union Station for New Year's Eve at the same time. Those would have been requiring box trucks to go places. They are so much smaller now. You can literally throw them in the back of an SUV and go to work.
And light up an entire area.
Yeah. At times, actually... Nate has controls on his cell phone for majority of our events where, if we don't need to be there, he can just dial in and set it to the color they want, and it's done. So it's pretty crazy. Technology is pretty cool.
Yeah, when you had mentioned that years ago you all ran a show from your apartment through the internet, so that's an old reference, and that blew me away. For some reason, I assumed that you all would have to be right there. You're seeing it. You're there. You're on site. Just like you explained with the multiple nights in the cold to make sure it worked. But now you can remotely experience, run these shows, and that's so neat.
Yeah.
This is a world of technology. Like, I'm familiar with technology. I'm sitting here with a laptop and a microphone, and I have a smartphone. But this is a realm of technology that I am completely ignorant in.
Right. The thing is that we have to be careful on, and I think this is the part that makes us unique too, is that we really focus on the human element. And so, regardless of the fact that we can do this remotely, and that is convenient, and at times it's more cost effective for the event that's going on or whatever, it is very important that we still show up and that we see it and experience it from the guest perspective, because we will lose touch. We're guilty of it at times, and so we have to go back, and that's part of honing our craft, is owning the old-fashioned way of doing stuff. And there's so many people in the industry now that haven't come from the old-fashioned way of doing it. So first of all, they don't have an appreciation for why they have what they have now. And then second of all, they don't have the understanding of why it's important that they actually show up and put their face there. We froze overnight programming the building, but some of the best stuff that ever happened to us was us sitting out there in the cold with a heater, and we'd bring extra food and feed the homeless. And people would come up and they were proposing in front of the building, and they didn't know we were there. And the guy'd be like, "Hey, can you make it purple? We'd be like, yes, and turn the whole thing purple. And then they had this like picturesque moment, or NFL shows up. And they're like, hey, we were looking for something to do photographically or video-wise for our network, and we just saw the building moving. Can you do something for us? And we light it in Bronco colors temporarily while we're programming, Stuff like that. It endears you to the people, but it also endears our talents to the experience and the value that we're putting out there for everyone. Ultimately, from the guest side, they don't know who we are. They just know that that's their tradition, and they expect it at a certain level. That's our responsibility, to meet that and exceed it just slightly every time.
Technology is always a tool.
Mm-hmm.
We live in Tomorrowland now. Mm-hmm. The kind of stuff we saw at CES, we didn't get to go to CES, but I've been watching a lot of videos on CES. The stuff that they're putting out, the technology that is actually happening, it's real world right now. It's Tomorrowland stuff. It's the future. We live there. All these things that I think back in the 40s, people were dreaming of, flying cars and all these kinds of things. Yeah, we have that. Uber put out this thing with Daimler where it was a flying drone taxi thing. It's like, what? That they're saying that's going to be out in the next 3 years. Like, you got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
So, okay, we're there.
Right.
So that kind of technology is absolutely amazing. If you lose the human element touch, the part where our hearts and our minds and the things that we connect with, if that gets lost in technology, then technology is worthless. It's just a pile of plastic and junk. So we need to always remember to focus on that and keep that part as the primary reasons why we do what we do.
Yeah. Technology is literally like the art supplies for our craft. It is not the basis. It is part of the assets that we pull forward that allow the artwork to come to life. But it is not the focus. I can do the same thing with a old-fashioned Radio Shack microphone that I can do with a multi-million-dollar sound system if my heart's in it.
Let's say you give an art studio better brushes, better canvas, you give them better tools, whatever hours you'd like to paint, better lights, better room. What can we do for you? Can I serve you coffee hand and foot?
Right.
It doesn't change the product, the ability of the painter, the finished product, and the human experience when someone sees that art hanging on a wall and has an emotional reaction. That has nothing to do with the materials. Some of the art, the most valuable, the most cherished art in the world was made hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years ago, before any technology could make paintings easier, better, and yet those are still the classics. Those are still things that move us as humans, because the human piece has always been there, and I think will always be there no matter what tech is coming through.
But we'll always relate to struggle, because struggle, bears the fruit of forward movement. Struggle bears the fruit of the better. Struggle bears the fruit of many great things. And Nate always says it really well. You need dark colors to appreciate the light colors, and that's really what we function under. Is taking through the struggle and appreciating it. I think that taking away the struggle as an artist, it takes away the appreciation and the passion. No one's going to remember my name one day. Give it a couple thousand years and I'm out. But they may have a technique out there that helps them express themselves because of something we did.
Or you have people who live their entire life and they say, do you remember that one time we were at that show? Or do you remember that time I proposed to you and they changed the lights purple? I mean, that's a 10-second story for you all, but for that couple, it's the rest of their relationship.
Exactly. Go back to that point. We wanted to change lives. We wanted to affect people in ways that exaggerated their reality to a place that they can only imagine of. And I think we were doing that. I think that's something that I enjoy every day, thinking about that. So you could be doing drudgery work of cleaning the shop and taking the trash out, but we still have affected people's lives in a really cool way and brought those magical moments, those heaven moments to Earth, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. Not everybody gets to go to Disneyland.
And you get to bring Disneyland to them.
Yeah.
We hope so. We have great admiration for the Disney company and Walt himself.
Very cool. And as we wrap up here, I did not want to get away without asking you all if you have events in the future that you'd like to discuss. We had talked about Monster Day is something you all have in common with Distortions Unlimited, which is actually how I ended up walking in your front door today. That's how I found out about you, is your work with them.
Yeah, exactly. Greeley DDA and Distortions. Distortions have been a family friend of mine for 30 years plus. So I've known them a long time, and Heidi's enjoyed the relationship, since the 90s as well. So over 20 years there. And so, our experience with Distortions is really cool, and helping them to build that Monster Day and bring some of their visions and dreams that they have to life is what it's been cool. And then working again with DDA Downtown Greeley, the way they put things together, that's a group of people that I think, I've told them this, they're one of the most self-aware groups of that type of group in any city that I've ever been. And that's like nationwide. We work with a lot of DDA groups and these groups in downtowns, and they're always trying to do something else that somebody else is doing in another town right next door, or they saw some cool thing on a trip to Florida and they're like, oh, we should do that here in Colorado. It's like, why? You should do what you are.
Yeah.
And Downtown Greeley does what they are. They are so self-aware. They know what they are. They know what they do. They know what their resources are, and to connect with Distortions and help facilitate an outlet for Distortions to do Monster Day is absolutely spectacular. So that event, now this year going into its third year, is going to continue to grow. There's going to be evolutions of all of that. We're starting to work on the planning here this next couple of weeks with them.
Wow,
so it's really starting to kick up. Yeah, and there was a lot of stuff, even right after the event, we had a lot of like, okay, what are we going to do different next year? So there's already been planning, but like now it's really to start focusing down on that planning and getting into it. So Monster Day is the big one. That one's coming up in August. Other things we're going to work on are going to end up being, partnerships with different groups. You'll see a lot of our work at Union Station, downtown Denver.
Okay.
You'll see a lot of our work just around the state, and that's where you stay connected with our Facebook. This year, we're hoping to get a lot more stuff on the Facebook and give kind of a heads up so that you can see some of the stuff that's coming instead of, the things that we did. We want to get ahead of it a little bit. So keep track of that Facebook page, check out our websites and that kind of stuff for some of the other events we're doing. But Monster Day is the big one, for sure.
Yep.
You all are imagineering people's lives to be just a little bit better, and I thank you as a person of this community. So it was great to meet you all, and thank you for your time.
Thank you.
It's good to meet you, too. Thank you so much.
Don't worry. We will be back soon, hearing from another person or a group of people on the more NoCo. As always, I want to thank Russell Isaac Long for the music used here at the more NoCo. Check us out on Instagram or Facebook for extra information, bonus content, and updates about guests who have previously been on the podcast. That's the more NoCo, all one word. Original, right? Thank you for listening and supporting the show. Until next time, peace!